Captain on the bridge.
All right, captains, we are back here on the bridge, and today, yes, we will be going over our recommendations of what items to get from the Lobi store for the event campaign of 2024. But before we do so, captains, do us a huge favor and hit that like button. But also, if you're new here, welcome. Consider subscribing to the YouTube Bridge. We're always on the lookout for like-minded captains to share our love, passion for Star Trek Online, but also things Star Trek. Now that said, here we go. Yes, captains, as we mentioned there in the introduction, this is our one of many videos of the recommendations for the event campaign of 2024. And we're going to start off with the Lobi items. Now, for the Lobi items, I'm going to split them into two videos. One being the items for, of course, the ships, which is this one, and the other one being everything else, because it's all about the ship. So what we're going to do is go over our recommendations, drop the two ECs, and then at the end give our conclusion. So we're going to go here. Of course, we're on currently the Typhon in the new Romulus system, just because it's one of our favorite places. But as we mentioned, we know that the event of 2024 gave us, and the change that they did was give us all the rewards, as opposed to them giving us just a choice of one, which was years prior was just the choice of the premium tier 6 ship, or the 2 tier 6 ship coupons, and the 15 or the 1500 Lobi. But now this year we get everything. Now, as you see, captains, we've actually finished event campaign number 6, and we actually finished it on the last day. It seems like I probably missed a couple of times we did the event daily, but we finished it at the end, literally on the last day of A Good Day to Die. Now, I know on console we are not done yet, because I'm not done yet. My PS4 account is still going on that, but we will get it very soon. So this is why we kind of picked this time to do the recommendations, because I've been actually getting a lot of questions on what items I recommend. So again, as you can see, for the Lobi stuff, we get 1500 of these. So for those who are new here, for you caps that are new here, all you have to do to access the Lobi store is go to the inventory, go to your Lobi. Don't worry about the inventory. It's okay. It's fine. Captains, just don't look at it. Let's just go concentrate on the Lobi here. All you gotta do is double click on that, and boom, you will have access to all the items that you can buy from the Lobi store. Now, I will recommend first and foremost, and I'll recommend in both videos hopefully, that you wait for a sale, and you wait for the highest possible sale. But 20% is pretty common, but sometimes there has been even up to the highest as 50%, but that was years ago. Don't keep your hopes up, because I've still been waiting for that, caps. But I would wait for it so that you can save a little bit more Lobi and stretch that out even more. Now, as you can see here, there's tabs here on the left for ships and crew, space gear, ground gear, costumes, vanity pets, and devices. So as I mentioned in the video in the beginning here, I wanted to go over the ships first, and then everything else will actually be in a separate video. So we'll actually, I'm not sure which one we'll release first, but it really depends. But we'll start here with the ships and crew, and for that we're gonna actually have to go out of screen here and put this on screen, because we're gonna start off with the ship's recommendation being the Maki Raider. Now, of course, this ship is from DS9, and I don't personally have this ship, and I will let you caps know why. It's because it doesn't really. Now, before I go on, when it comes to this videos and my recommendations, it's mostly gonna be about visuals, but a little bit of sprinkle of performance. For us, we have a lot of captains that we run across in our time that we're streaming or when we're online that does a bunch of either tactical stuff, engineering, and or sci-fi stuff, and that's why the recommendations we'll be making has a little bit of both and or for everyone. Now, if you're a fan of this ship, well, there you go. You can actually get this ship from the Lobi store. Now, one of the major reasons why we are recommending this is because of the console that comes with it, which is the Plasma Storm module. Now, this is still highly used, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the comments below, in a lot of Sci-Fu builds. I see it all the time when I'm with my Sci-Fu captains. So, as you can see here, what it does is when you activate it, it will create a massive plasma storm, similar to the Badlands Cyclones, at your target's location. The plasma storm deals plasma damage and pulls enemies into its center while drastically slowing their flight speed. So it actually is like a grab well times 100. And the visual, like I said, is just one of that of the Cyclones in the Badlands battle zone. So there you go. That is the recommendation for that. Now for the weapons layout, it is a 5-1, and it still does pretty good. Really, to be honest, any ship in game tier 5 up can still perform admirably well as long as you build it correctly. So, but this is the weapon layout here, 5-1, so it is a really good raider ship. And of course, you build it correctly and it will just rip through the enemy. So that's our first recommendation. It is the Maki Raider, and we're kind of just going from the top down to the list here. We go back here, stow bridge. When we open the list here, I'm just going from top to bottom, so there's no real rhyme or reason other than just going from top to bottom. So go back out here to the screen. So there is that. The next recommendation we have is this, the Walker class light exploration cruiser. Now, I'm a huge fan of this ship, which is of course from Star Trek Discovery. Now, a lot of you caps know that I'm not a huge fan of the show, and I really wish that this was the actual hero ship, but it isn't. But it was there in the first couple of episodes there, and I fell in love with it instantly. It looks really good, and performatively, again, you can really make it work for you as long as you build it correctly. It's a great ship in terms of looks, and you can get some good performance from it. And of course, it's not really essentially for its console and or trait. More so, I got it because I liked the look of it, and plus it was from the new, one of the hero ships of the new Star Trek shows, or well, was new. As of the recording of this video, of course, Discovery is over. But I will give it that Discovery has given us a bunch of ships that we can all enjoy. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. So that ship, one of them for me, is the Walker indeed. It's like a beefed up Miranda. A lot bigger, but man, does it look. Now, there's two versions of this. There is a legendary version, but the one that you get, of course, in the Lobi store is the Light Exploration Cruiser. Now, in terms of stats, nothing really too special. Again, it's a 5-3, so that's always pretty good. And it does have a pilot seat specialization, a Lieutenant Universal. That's the only thing, though, that I just realized going through this video when I was doing... Oh, sorry, it's an Intel, sorry. Intel pilot. It has the Intel, so it's good for your beam builds and such. So, again, build it correctly. It's going to do some good damage DPS for you. So there's that. Of course, the Walker, our next recommendation there. Next up is this ship, this Sona ship here, which is, I believe it is the, here, the Sona Intel Battle Cruiser. Of course, this was from the Next Generation films there. And it's not necessarily that I'm recommending this for its looks, because I'm not a fan of it, but its trait is why I'm recommending this. Captains that have been here on the bridge with me for a long time know that I'm a huge lover of torpedo builds, and this ship comes with a great trait for torpedoes. Now, it is a 5-3 weapon layout. As you can see here, in terms of its seating here, it's an Intel ship here. So again, beams, but again, we're looking at this, the Subspatial Warheads Starship trait. Not really concerned about the Universal Console there. It's this. So the Starship trait, Subspatial Warheads. After achieving level 5 in your Sona Intel Battlecruiser, you will unlock the Subspatial Warhead Starship trait. While slotted, damage caused by your high-yield torpedoes and transport warheads, I don't use that ability, will cause an isolated tear to form near the damaged target. This anomaly will chase down the nearest foe, causing physical damage and draining engine subsystem power to any enemies it encounters. So, love me my high yields, and this just adds a little bit more performance to it. And I remember getting this ship along with another ship that we'll be recommending down the list here in a bit, when there was that 50% off sale years ago. That's why I grabbed this, but also, as I mentioned, loving the torpedo build. So this is why we're recommending this ship, the Sona Intel Battlecruiser. And of course, if you build it out with beams and of course with a boost Intel got here over the past couple of years, you can get some good numbers out of this if you so desire. But I specifically got this ship for that trait. So there is that. Our next recommendation is going to be this, the NX Escort refit. Now, I am not necessarily a huge fan of Enterprise. There is some things that I do like. Obviously, this ship is one of them. Because of how they treated some of their space battles, I did become a fan, to be honest. And that theme song, I mean, come on. How could we not like, well, I do. So I see what they were trying to do, and I loved how the ship looked and performed. It really felt like Star Trek whenever it was in space battles. And we totally took advantage of this when this came out and grabbed it. And we, of course, there is a legendary version of this, but this itself is still pretty good. Now, on top of the ship just being NX and the hero ship of Enterprise, there is the other reason why we're making this recommendation is the console that comes with it. Of course, it is the Universal Point Defense Bombardment Warhead. Now, caps that have been with us here for a bit on the bridge know that most of my builds, if not all, has that torpedo console on our builds. Now, what does it do? Well, activating this console launches a warhead that slowly travels to your target. An enemy starship unfortunate enough to get within the warhead's attack range will be repeatedly bombarded with photon torpedoes. The warhead detonates on reaching its target, causing heavy kinetic damage to the target and all nearby foes. This console also provides a passive bonus to projectile damage and critical hit chance. This console may be equipped on any starship, but only one may be equipped at a time, of course. Now, on top of course, being just the console, the trait on this ship is absolutely amazing. Preferential targeting. So what does it do? And this is for, of course, my beam captain. So activating beam fire at will and cannon scatter volley will cause beam overload and cannon rapid fire to deal 50% additional damage for the next 30 seconds. So this is kind of a 3-in-1. Not only does it look good, and plus you get the refit look of this skin for this ship, you get the console, which actually helps a lot of my builds, not only for torpedo, but energy. We'll get that to a second. But also the trait, because it gives more damage to beam overload and cannon rapid fire. And to me, those two abilities, beam overload and cannon rapid fire, are more screen accurate to me, and that's why we like building those ships out. Now, I know most of DPS comes from AoE attacks, but to be honest, captains, it's all about the looks, and for us, it's about looking good and trying to emulate the look of the pew-pews that we see on screen. Now, we're gonna go back quickly to the bridge here. Go to our build, and as you can see, it's not on this particular one, but there's a reason for that. But we're gonna go over to this, which is the DPRM. Now this is from the Atlas, but this torpedo bombardment actually gets paired with this. As you can see there, it actually says part of the set there is the Point Defense Bombardment Warhead. Now I use this a lot. Why? Details wise, the two-piece, 2 times 10 gives this plus 33% damage for phaser disruptor and plasma. And yes, I do a lot of phaser builds, so it really helps. And plus it does give me my option of still having torpedoes on my ships. Now, the console itself, let's quickly go over here. Type in search for point. Right there. I have 2. It just happens. So there you go. It has plus 25% projectile damage, and then the cute 1% critical chance. So again, nothing to write home about the 1 critical chance, but I use it mostly for the 2-piece and of course for the torpedo shenanigans. And that's why we'll be recommending this and putting this on our list for the ships coming from the Lobi store, because this is the looks, the console, and the trait all wrapped in one. So there's that. Next up, the Kelvin Timeline Intel Dreadnought Cruiser. Yes, you can get this bad boy from the Lobi store. It's a great ship, and of course it's an Intel ship, and again, like I've mentioned before, Intel got a boost the last couple of years, so you can get some really good performance out of the ship. Now, this ship is one of the prettiest looking dreadnoughts, Starfleet/Starfleet ships I've seen, and this is why we love it. It does, the only problem I have with it aesthetically is just that the pylons here kind of bend. I don't really think it needs that bend. I wish it could just go straight out, but that's again just minor. But the ship itself is pretty great, and of course it is from the Kelvin Timeline movies. Now this, on top of being a dreadnought, of course it comes with a hangar bay, and the actual stats here, you see it's a 5-3 weapon layout, and of course it's Intel, temporal operative, and it has this cool console on it. Now, of course, you remember the scene from the Kelvin movie there, it had the Enterprise all to its broadside, and it just started reaping havoc on it, and this console actually emulates that look. So the Kelvin Timeline Intel Dreadnought Cruiser comes equipped with the broadside emitter arrays universal console. This technology is basically additional banks of emitter arrays mounted on the exterior broadside arcs of the ship in order to minimize their power draw and performance impact. These emitters can only be powered up for brief periods of time, and their targeting sensors are set to automatically acquire targets. In an attempt to make up for the limited usage, they have been set to fire at an extremely rapid pace. So if you build this ship with all Kelvin Timeline phasers and you activate this, it's gonna look very pretty, I promise you. Now, is it meta breaking? No. Is it fun? 100%. 100%. I do absolutely love that console on the ship. Now, the trait itself, it's nothing to write about, but it's a good placeholder in case you're a canoe captain starting here. It's not that bad. So what is it? So after achieving level 5 in your Kelvin Timeline Intel Dreadnought Cruiser's T6 Starship Mastery, say that 5 times fast, you will unlock the Target Rich Environment Starship trait. While the Starship trait is slotted, activating Beam Fire at Will or Cannon Scatter Volley will provide a small boost to weapon damage per weapon activation for a short time. As long as these attack modes are active, the bonus stacks up to 30 times. So again, it's not the best, but it's something to use in place of as you build up your resources, as you build up your arsenal to boost up your performance, if you're even interested in that. Because some of us are here for the Space Barbie. I'm one of them. So now this does actually have a set bonus that you can get with, but you actually have to have the Kelvin Timeline Command Cruiser, as you can see here. So I also do recommend that, but if you do have that ship, then this is what you're gonna get. So the 2-piece passive is a phaser directed energy damage plus photon projectile damage. So again, for my captains who love cannon, CANON sort of looking builds for Federation, there you go, that is gonna help. Now the 3-piece kinetic and physical damage resistance rating incoming heal increases as health decreases, and the 4-piece reduces recharge time on of all the consoles in this set. So again, as you can see, this is where The four pieces are, there's the Universal Auxiliary Ejector Assembly, which is of course from the Kelvin Timeline Heavy Command Cruiser. The Proton Charge Launcher, found in the Kelvin Timeline Pilot D4X Bird of Prey. And this Universal Mine Drill Laser is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can actually get that on the exchange too, but it's found on the Kelvin Timeline. Actually, it's a console pack too as well. But Intel Carrier Warbird, and of course the broadside, which is from the Kelvin. So mostly our recommendation for this ship is because of its looks. 100% its looks first. After, of course, there's just the bonus of it being a good performing ship still nowadays as the recording of this video. Now, shout out to my captains who got this ship first, who did not go the tailor change, because they're actually, you're gonna notice this if you're in your Kelvin in 2024 when you got it this year, there will be vengeances out there still that will be significantly bigger than yours. Why? Because that was actually a visual bug, and I believe it had something to do with them remastering the skin of this. And for those captains who didn't go to the tailor, the ship tailor, to upgrade the look of their ship for the remastered skin, they get to keep the actual old oversized Kelvin Timeline Intel Dreadnought Cruiser, which I am so mad about, because I feel that that ship should be that size. It's a big visual difference. You can't even miss it. But again, shout out to my caps who have that. One of them I know is Mr. Elf. Shout out to you. I am super jealous. Next up, we're going to recommend the Zindy Primate Ataleth. Now, this ship looks like a motorbike in space. I get that vibe. I don't know why, but I do. It's not a bad looking ship. I don't mind it, but I'll be very honest, I have not actually flown this yet. If I did, it was quite only just to get the Starship trait, which is why we're recommending this ship. Why? Well, again, but just in case, if you love the Zindy species, you can get the ship in the Lobi store. But as you can see here, it is a Intel command seating. It is a 4-4, but I want to concentrate on this, which is a Super Weapon Ingenuity, which is the Starship trait. Why? Here it is. After reaching level 5 in the Zindy Primate Ataleth Dreadnought Cruiser's Starship Mastery, you will unlock the Super Weapon Ingenuity Starship trait. While slotted, activating Beam Overload 1, 2, or 3 firing mode, you will be granted an extra charge of Beam Overload 1, allowing you to fire 2 massive blasts of energy back-to-back. Super Weapon Ingenuity can be triggered once every 30 seconds. That's why I love this, because it helps one of my favorite bridge officer abilities, which is Beam Overload 1. Again, it says you'll be granted an extra charge of Beam Overload 1, allowing you to fire 2 massive blasts of energy back-to-back. So that's why we recommend the ships to those captains who love Beam Overload. And it's not just, of course, for phasers. For any Beam Overload build you have, this is a recommendation from us. Is it going to break the bank in terms of DPS? No. Is it going to look pretty smexy in space while you're doing pew-pews? 100%. And you can do it on the ship of your choice. So there is that. We're going to recommend this ship because of that wonderful Starship trait, which I always do, because when I feel like when I wanted to go back to my sort of cannon builds with the 1N, I definitely bust that out and use that trait 100%. So there is that. Next up is the Vodwar Astika Heavy Battle Cruiser. 100% the looks. It's like a space battleship. Now, there was a recent promotion between Star Trek and I believe World of Warships, correct me if I'm wrong, and they had ships that look like, or took familiar sort of hints and cues from like the Enterprise D. And I think there was a Vulcan ship too as well and stuff. And the reason why I got this though years ago was definitely for the looks of it, because it looks like that. Now we are still planning on doing a sort of theme night or theme build of a starship, sort of battleship, Yamato type thing, because this is what it reminds me of. And it looks pretty good. In my opinion, it looks pretty good. And that, now, what does it come with? As you can see here, it is a 5-3 weapon layout, and it is a command specialization seating there. So we love it because, again, the looks. Now for the starship trait, it's not bad. Again, a good sort of trait for a fill-in until you build up your traits. Now we'll go to the consoles here. The assault mode relays, it's nothing to write about, but it does come with it. So the Vodwar Sika heavy battlecruiser comes equipped with the assault mode relays universal console. This unit contains sophisticated circuitry designed specifically to facilitate quickly shunting power between engines and weapons in the blink of an eye. Vodwar starships frequently make use of this capability to allow their vessels to swap between being highly mobile and highly deadly. While this quote-unquote assault mode universally grants benefits to outgoing weapon damage, each class of Vodwar vessel utilizes this power swap a little differently, benefiting in different ways. So again, here on the assault escort, entering assault mode will grant additional shield regen, shield hardness. On the heavy battlecruiser, existing assault mode will cripple nearby enemy sensors by placating all nearby enemies. This does provide a substantial passive increase to turn flight speed as long as assault mode isn't active. And of course, you can put this on, it can be equipped on any Vodwar ship, it says. But again, I only have this one. But again, look at that. It looks like a battleship in space. Now, the trait here is Supremacy, and what it is after achieving level 5 in your Vodwar Astika Heavy Battlecruiser Starship Mastery, you will unlock the Supremacy Starship trait. While this starship trait is slotted, activating beam, fire at will, or cannon scatter volley will provide a small boost to all subsystem power levels per target hit or short time as long as these attacks modes are active. This bonus stacks up to 20 times. So again, I'd say a filler trait. There are better traits out there, definitely, but 100% recommending this because of the looks of it. I like it. I really do. And it's not often that I do like sort of alien looking ships other than, of course, the Federation styles, but this actually I don't mind recommending. So those are the recommendations that we have, but there's some bonus ones. So all of those ships that we just went through are all tier 6. But in the Lobi store, there are actually still tier 5 ones. Currently, there are now T6 versions of them, but if you just wanted the original and you're a Starship collector, then we're gonna throw this in as our recommendation. So what are they? Well, they're the Dyson ships, which we did actually get free because of the anniversary event. And of course, there are 3 of them. There is the Romulan one, right there. There's the Klingon one, and of course the Federation. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of these in terms of its look, but if there was one that I could recommend, it's this one, the Romulan. Especially when you put the green skin on this looks pretty cool. It looks like a sort of squashed Derpadex or Dideradex. So now again, I know it's tier 5, but Caps, as long as you still build your ships with synergy and you sort of unify the build, you can get some still decent performance of them. Not going to be top performing, and I've mentioned there are already tier 6 versions of the ship. The Dyson ones actually just came recently here in Star Trek Online in 2024. But if you're into the alien looking ships, there you go. Again, the KDF is not bad, but again, where I make my recommendation of the 3 ships is the Romulan one because it looks pretty cool in my opinion. I just put standard cannons on it. It's not, I just use it more for the looks, like I mentioned. So there's that. And lastly of the ship recommendations from the Lobi store is the Dino Skull, or the Obelisk Carrier. Now, of course, again, this is a ship that we got, and of course there's a tier 6 ship of this now, which we got for this year's summer event prize. But if you like carriers and or you are collecting all the ships in Star Trek Online and that is your end game, well, why not recommend this? I'm not gonna lie, I did have fun with the ship. I named it the Dino Skull, and then of course I named the summer ship that we just got, the tier 6 version, Dino Skull 2.0, because that's what it reminds me of. And I even have a thumbnail, I believe, that I did for the summer event news coverage where I actually put the Dino Skull 2.0, the tier 6 version, over a T-Rex, and it still looks like a Dino Skull to me. Again, nothing to write home about, but it's still a ship that you can get good performance, especially nowadays with it being a carrier. You can build it with that carrier sort of pet builds that I've learned to love, to be honest, captains. I'm not a huge pet build sort of captain. I never really got into that, but with the recent release of ships like this one here, the Typhon from the Heritage Bundle, we have been having fun. Other ships that got me into the sort of pet builds were the Monitor from the Terran. I believe that's the 12th anniversary bundle, but that ship is fun. And this, of course, game is all about having fun. So those are our recommendations, my caps, for the Lobi items ship edition. We will be doing the other items, of course. Again, I'm not sure where this is going to be before or after, but it's going to be the same thing. But as you can see, this video already is pretty lengthy. And that was just going over the ships, not even a lot, but just us dropping our ECs. We're already at 30 minutes plus. But captains, thank you so much, first and foremost, for checking this video out, for supporting us over the years. I really, truly appreciate it. Caps, I love you all. So do us a huge favor before closing the video off. Hit that like button, comment below, let me know your ship recommendation and or what ship you got for this year's 1500 Lobi prize. And of course, if you're new here, consider subscribing to the YouTube Bridge. We still have videos coming out, of course, for the rest of the recommendations for the 2024 event campaign, so look out for that. And on that note, caps, we'll leave it on this.
Live long and prosper.